Gary Neville is being absolutely roasted for this.
So I've just left my house and walking into the office, waking up obviously, seeing the news last night and the news this morning dominated by the horrific attacks within the Jewish community just about a mile from here.
OK, who did that attack, Gary? We know it was a Syrian-born jihadi called Jihad. His Muslim convert wife said he wanted to join ISIS. Neville's going to do it. He's finally going to call out radical Islamist terrorism. Go on, Gary.
Going down a Littleton Road, seeing 60, probably 50 or 60 Union Jack flags.
Yes, brilliant. Overt patriotism. People just loving their country. Go on, Gary.
And on the way back, I went down the parallel road, which is Bury New Road, which has got the Jewish community right at its heart, and they're out on the streets, defiant, not hiding or in fear.
Yes, and that is really brave of them because, Gary, especially in the last 2 years, they've faced relentless anti-Semitism from a combination of lunatic Islamists and mad far-left activists. But here we go. Gary is getting to the bit now where he calls out those nutty Islamists. Maybe he'll even make a point that many of the thousands of illegal immigrants we have crossing the channel come from countries that hate Jews. Come on, Gary, come on.
The division that's being created is absolutely disgusting. Mainly created by angry, middle-aged white men who know exactly what they're doing.
What? Oh, hang on. Angry, middle-aged white men? I can't help but wonder how many angry, middle-aged white men pay Gary Neville's wages by buying Sky Sports subscriptions. But anyway, do you think he means angry, middle-aged white men like Jihad al-Shami, good British name there, or angry, middle-aged white men like Salman Abedi, the son of Libyan asylum seekers who blew himself up inside Manchester Arena? Maybe this is what he means. Yeah, there we go. Now, that is an angry, middle-aged... oh, hang on a second, let's have a look at this. It was a Muslim man, actually, who just violently attacked someone with a knife for burning a Quran outside the Turkish embassy. Guess what? He was spared jail. Anyway, carry on, Gary.
Funnily enough, on one of my development sites last week, there was a Union Jack flag put up, and I took it down instantly. And some people might be watching this and thinking, well, Gary, you're not very patriotic. I played my country 85 times. I love my country. I love Manchester and I love England. But I've been building in this city for 15, 20 years, and there's no one put a Union Jack flag up in the last 15 to 20 years, so why do you need to put one up now?
Great question. Let me tell you why, Gary. Because over the last 15 to 20 years, we have seen record levels of mass immigration. We've seen record levels of illegal immigration. We've seen a huge rise in Islamist extremism. People are sick of their hard-earned tax money being spent on asylum hotels and benefits for illegal migrants, and actually, in many cases, legal migrants as well. Not that that bothers Gary, of course, because he's absolutely wadded. But we've had the Pakistani rape gang scandal as well, which Gary doesn't want to talk about.
Do you think it was a good thing that Elon Musk is highlighting the grooming gang problem in your country?
I've got no comment, mate.
Really? Why not?
I've got no comment on Trump and Musk and all the rest of it.
And now, Gary, we have a Prime Minister and a government who many ordinary, hard-working people feel really don't like Britain and haven't got the minerals to sort it out. But, you see, Gary can't admit that, can he? Why not? Well, he did everything within his power to get Sir Keir Starmer elected, didn't he?
How are you?
Yeah, good. How are you? Are we good?
Thanks for doing this, then.
No
really
problem
good.
at all.
Oh, no problem at all. Yeah, he's done events with Sir Keir Starmer at Labour Party conference. He even backed him over the whole freebie scandal stuff. Look, Gary's very big on morals. He's got a strong sense of right and wrong. Do you remember when he went to the Islamist Hamas terror group housing country of Qatar for the World Cup, inadvertently helping to sports wash that diabolical country?
Got a choice, I think, haven't you?
What, going or not going?
Well, my view always has been that you either highlight the issues and challenges in these countries and speak about them, or you basically don't say anything, you stay back home and don't go. And I've always said we should challenge them.
There's another option. You stay at home and highlight the abuses. You don't have to go and take the Qataris' money.
Yeah. Anyway, according to Gary, it was Brexit that made this country dangerous.
Brexit has had a devastating impact on this country, and the messaging is getting dangerous, extremely dangerous. All these idiots that are out there spreading hate speech in any form and abuse in any form, we must stop promoting them. We must stop.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, we have seen a lot of very concerning rhetoric recently, haven't we? Do you think Gary means stuff like this?
But the deen of Islam has legislated jihad, that wherever anyone attempts to carry out genocide, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has commanded the Muslims, do not permit them to carry out genocide. Take up arms and defend yourself, and do preemptive strikes wherever those preemptive strikes, which is offensive jihad, is needed.
Oh, good grief. Look, I don't know about you, but I think Gary Neville might have got this one wrong. Let's get the thoughts of my panel. Let's whiz ourselves over there. We have got Express columnist Carol Malone, we've got journalist Benjamin Butterworth, and Reform's Sir Jake Berry. Carol, has Gary got this one wrong?
Do you know, this is the problem when you have thick as mince, two-bob political commentators who know nothing, who have...
Not talking about us, are you, Carol?
Finally, I feel.
No, it really isn't. This is people who are pretty stupid, who don't know about politics, who don't know the facts, who don't understand what's staring them in the face, and then you have someone like Neville saying what he did. You know, this is... You know, we have a radical Islamist British Syrian who goes to a synagogue with his knife to break in with the intention of killing people, and suddenly it's white British men that are to blame for all of this. You know, the man is... How can... And he talks about people flying the flag, people on his building sites flying the flag, and he's wondering how. You just outlined some of the reasons why they're flying the flag, because they need to reclaim their flag and their country, because mass immigration over the last 15 years, they feel that their culture, our culture, is being eroded. So, yes, they're flying the flag. But, you know, it's people like Neville who are part of the problem. It's people like him who are... He doesn't really know what's going on in this country, and he knows a few facts, but not all of them, and yet he's making these kind of proclamations. He will condemn British patriots, but he will not condemn Islamist terrorists and extremists. How can't he see what's happening on the streets of this country? How doesn't he understand that that is dangerous? That is what's dividing this country.
Jay, why does Gary Neville seem to think, in the wake of a flagrant jihadi called Jihad, trying to kill as many Jews as possible in Manchester, the thing he has to point out there is about our flag and angry middle-aged men?
Well, because he's a complete idiot, isn't he? I mean, right. But what makes me so angry about this is, in a way, and it's such an insult, and I know you grew up in Manchester, I used to work there, to the people of Manchester, who this isn't their first brush with terrorism, but let's focus on the people who died in this appalling attack. He's sort of almost excusing the perpetrator. He's almost saying it's not really his fault. He was almost driven to it. You know, all these flags going up everywhere. That's almost an excuse for picking up a knife, strapping on a fake suicide vest and going in an attempt to murder Jews in their place of worship. That's why I'm so angry about this. And if you look at the people who maybe he should have blamed or could have blamed, I think there are great questions for Manchester Police to answer, because this individual was out on bail following a charge of rape. Think about Lucy Connolly. She wasn't bailed, was she? This guy committed rape, he was bailed. There's great questions for our security service to answer about whether this guy was properly tracked. There are questions whether this guy and his family ever should have been given citizenship.
Well,
I mean,
frankly,
if you're going to call your son Jihad, when they got the application form, they maybe should have gone, not this one.
Were there even eyes on him in this country? Yeah. There should have been, and they clearly weren't.
And Gary Neville's behaviour, saying, well, this it feels to me, I might be wrong, he I'm sure would deny this, feels it's an attempt to excuse this behaviour and move the blame onto a group of people who actually are patriotic and do care about our country. He is gaslighting the British people.
You mentioned something mentioning to me outside earlier on, I'm glad you reminded us of it, because obviously Gary Neville in that piece there goes on about how many times he played for his country and how much he loves England, etc. And I know the people online have been highlighting just this clip. Just see if there's anything you particularly notice here.
So he's not singing it.
No, didn't appear to be singing the national anthem. Hey, maybe that was just him on an off day. Maybe he was so in the zone he didn't notice the national anthem was. We can't.
Apparently, the other thing he said is we can't doubt his patriotism because he played for England in a football game. I admire him for it. It's something I'd love to be able to do. I certainly couldn't, but. You know, it doesn't necessarily make you a patriot because you play football.
Let's you sat there very patiently, not getting involved in this. You know, there's been some pretty strong stuff said about Gary Neville there. You know, do you want to go into bat for him here? Say, look, actually, he's misunderstood. He's entitled to his views.
Well, I mean, I think in general, middle-aged men posting on the internet without thinking is not such a good idea. I think on the point of whether the flags and the angry white men are to do with the atrocity last week at the synagogue. No, they're not linked. But where he's definitely right and has a point is that there are people intentionally turning the temperature up. There are people who are thriving on division.
And I'm afraid... Palestinian demonstrators.
Well, sure, yes, but also angry, middle-aged white men. And some of those people have been putting up the Union flag or the English flag not because they want to say it represents all of us, but because they want to flaunt it. They want to intimidate some people in this country. And I think Gary Neville is absolutely right to stand up to those people.
You can't say that flying your national flag is flaunting things.
You don't think there are racists using our flag? You don't think the EDL, when they fly the English flag, are not trying to divide us?
I think there are lots of racists there, but you cannot say generally that flying our flag is racist, negative or divisive. It isn't. And if he says that people on his building sites are now flying those flags, they're doing it for a very...
Because they're middle-aged white men.
Because they love their country, they're patriots, and they feel they're losing their country thanks to this stupid, weak government and police forces who let all these crazy lewds on the street shout things like...
He is entitled... You know, Ben to support... He is a champagne socialist. Ben is entitled to his view, just like Gary Neville's entitled to his view. But what really makes me angry is he specifically went out in this video and linked it to these terrorists. If he'd have generally stood up and said, look, I'm really uncomfortable with the flags, I disagree with him, fair enough. But to link it to this terrorism attack is using an appalling tragedy to try and make a political point, and he's wrong. It is a disgraceful way to behave, and maybe he should have talked about the fact that, you know, David Lammy was booed by the crowd who was so angry with him when he went and addressed the vigil there. There's all sorts of things he could have talked about.
Multiple things can be true.
Why didn't he condemn this guy? Why didn't he condemn Islamist terrorism in this country? Why did he condemn white British men for flying a flag?
Has he said another thing about as Carol alluded to there, you know, I mean, on Saturday, for example, we're going to come on and talk about this at 10 p.m. And we saw some absolutely vile stuff over the weekend. Absolutely disgusting stuff. You know, flagrant, naked anti-Semitism.
Yes.
Where's Gary's video on that?
Well, I mean, I think it would have been better if he'd done something on that, but, you know, he's not there to comment on absolutely everything. But what he is actually doing here is speaking as a middle-aged white man who is from a working-class background, who's extremely successful.
You can't.
And actually, he is speaking as someone who understands that part of the world.
He does not.
And he understands that there are people trying to exploit these tragedies, trying to exploit the attack on the synagogue, trying to exploit the attack on the mosque.
This is a multi-millionaire ex-premiership footballer.
He's exactly what this country needs.
In an elitist bubble, who all the problems of this country do not touch this man. He is not...
He has made it to the top. Pure hard work. We should knight Gary Neville, not condemn him.
Hypocrite. He's a champagne. He's actually admitted he's a champagne.
Oh, so now you hate successful people because they don't share your politics. What happened to free speech, Malone?
Who pretend to be working class people and to understand the British people. He has no clue about how the British people feel.
Would you accept that it's actually Gary Neville who's exploiting this tragedy by trying to make a political point out of it? That is disgraceful. You don't see anyone else walking down the street saying, you know, what an appalling tragedy, which it was. It was an act of terrorism. It was horrendous. But let me make my political point. That's why he's gone wrong. He's attempted to piggyback on the back of this tragedy to make a political point. It's just completely wrong, whatever the point is.
Just by the way, as well, there's an article that's coming out, I think, in tomorrow's Daily Telegraph, where it says that Sky Sports have got no intention of taking any action against him whatsoever, which, by the way, I am in favour of, because I think people's views should be able to be made, and you shouldn't necessarily just get sacked by your employer. However, it's not been lost on me that if he'd have said the opposite, right, I think they would have disciplined him. If he'd have said, you know, I've had enough of this, I'm going to hoist a flag above every single one of my hotels, I'm sick of Islamism in the UK, I think there would have been consequences for Gary Neville. But anyway, right, we've also reached out to Gary Neville for comment, and we yet to hear back.